Hey, everybody, welcome to episode number 4 of the Debt Free Dad podcast. Today, we're sharing tips to help you radically, I love that word, by the way, radically improve your financial behavior so that you can grow your bank account, save more money, and pay off debt. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Debt Free Dad podcast, where we're helping normal, everyday people learn how to save money and kick debt so they can live a happier and stress-free life. Now here's your host, Debt Free Dad, Brad Nelson.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's show. You can find me on Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, and Instagram. Just search Brad Nelson, Debt Free Dad. I'd love to connect with you, start up a conversation about hopefully helping you get out of debt, save more money. Love to help you out. Welcome to today's show. Hey, guys, so check this out. This past Monday was what they call is Blue Monday. Have you guys heard of Blue Monday before?
I have not.
So you're lying because we just talked about it right before we started this podcast. I'm just kidding.
I had not until you told me about it when we just hopped on here before we started.
So I was going through this. So there's always these weird holidays throughout the year. And I was looking at some of these, and all of a sudden I came across this one called Blue Monday. And this is what it says. It says, while Blue Monday isn't officially a holiday, it does have the dubious distinction of being named one of the most depressing days of the year. It falls on January 18th each year, although this year in 2020, we're celebrating on January 20th, and is supposedly so depressing because of the combination of, guess what? Post-Christmas bills, which we can help you out with, the abandonment of New Year's resolutions. We kind of hit on that back in our very first episode of this podcast. Low sunlight levels, vitamin D, and cold weather. Ryan, you don't count on that because you live in Tennessee. You guys don't get very cold weather down there.
Hey, it's 50 here, so I'm freezing.
Yeah. So if you are struggling with Blue Monday, mostly because of the financial side of things, it's a good thing you're listening to this show. And hopefully by this time next year, you can kiss those Blue Monday blues away. You guys see what I did with that? That was pretty good, huh?
That was fantastic, Brad.
So today, guys, we're talking all about financial habits and turning our focus to those financial habits. This is one area where I think mainstream media kind of gets it wrong. They don't get it wrong all the time, but I think they get it wrong a lot. You know, if you look at the majority of the personal finance articles that are out there, rarely do they focus on financial habits and behaviors. They'll hit on them briefly, but a lot of them are going to talk more about like employment, slow wage growth, the economy, credit scores, the rise in prices, and how it's hard for the average family to keep up. Maybe it's the cost of living. And that's kind of just to name a few, but many of these articles miss the point that ultimately the biggest factor that will change your finances is you. If you can make better choices and kick poor financial habits, you can win. And I can tell you firsthand, my financial life started to improve when I finally looked at myself in the mirror and I said, it's you. You are the idiot, and you have got to fix it. So what do you guys think about that? Like when it comes to your financial behaviors, was there an awakening for the two of you where you were just kind of like, okay, it seriously is me, and I've got to fix this problem?
I don't know that I would have called myself an idiot, but no, I mean, but very similar. I think for a long time we kind of just blamed everything else, and the reality is at the end of the day, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. You're the one who can fix it. So the solution to your problem lies with you and solely you.
Yeah, I didn't call myself an idiot either, but I might have
maybe I have a problem with negative
self-talk. Maybe, but I may have blamed my husband a lot. I did that. And he blamed me. We blamed each other. Oh, you're spending this much. You're spending that much. And then we finally just agreed to make a change.
Together.
I
love that. That's cute.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point though too. I think we had the same thing. You know, you're kind of blaming each other. You spent this, I spent that, or you spent that, so I should get to spend that. You kind of go back and forth and round until you both come to an agreement that this is what our plan is.
Yeah. See, I had a little bit of a different situation because by the time I had realized this, I was going through a divorce. So there was no longer a we involved. It was me. And I just got to the point where it's like, okay, whatever I was doing wasn't working. And that's where I just had that realization. I was going through that foreclosure and just things were just falling apart. And it was just kind of like that aha moment of like, okay, I got to start making some better choices. And that's when I started kind of really educating myself, learning more about this and challenging kind of the normal habits and things that I had that was really kind of keeping me in the position that I was. So today we're going to share some of those tips that at least have definitely helped me out. And Ryan and Amber are obviously going to share some of their tips too that have helped them change some of their financial habits. But I think one of the first things that you have to kind of come to terms with is that everybody is looking for the quick fix. Everybody's looking for this miracle drug or this, secret blueprint that's going to help them change whatever it is that they want to change in their life. And I got to tell you, when it comes to your finances, and this is kind of the same thing like when it comes to weight loss and exercising, all that stuff, everyone thinks that you can just get it done in a short period of time. And that's just not going to happen. So avoid the temptation that the latest and greatest tool is going to save you, or even the temptation that thinking just making more money is going to save you. You ultimately, like Ryan said, you've got to save yourself. And I think one of the very first things that you have to start to realize is, what are some of your bad habits? So guys, it's time to fess up. What were some of your worst financial habits before you got out of debt and before you got to financial freedom?
Eating out because I was too lazy to cook.
You know how many people probably can relate to that? I'm raising my hand.
Yeah, definitely. And then when our granddaughter came along, spending money on our granddaughter, we still struggle with that.
Oh, yeah. Spoiling the granddaughter, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah.
Taking trips, too, that we couldn't afford. Oh, my gosh.
Did you guys just put them on the credit card then?
Yeah, we put them on the credit card. And there was one time that I got a notice in the mail that said it was about 4 days before we left on our trip, said that we could increase our credit limit on a maxed out credit card.
Oh,
so we did it.
Yeah, and of course you did it. Yeah, you wanted to. Yeah. We need to talk about that topic in another podcast because that happens to a lot of people, and they think that means that that's a good thing, and it's not a good thing. Ryan, what do you got, man? What were some of your worst habits?
I'd still even say today, but I mean, when I was in spending mode, I'm a huge tech nerd. I love technology. So just like Best Buy was just anything new and exciting and, the flashing lights is just like, that's cool to me. So I would just buy that stuff because it was fun, and I don't even know if I needed all the stuff I bought. I just kind of thought it would be cool. And so I spent a lot on that. Trips, definitely. I think I've shared in our other podcast. We went to Disney a number of times, charged it all. I love vehicles. Vehicles were a huge burden on us for a long time. To this day, if I was in my old mode, I'd have like the Chevy Colorado. It's like my dream truck, top model, $45,000. I'll never take it off road. I don't need it at all, but I want it. Right. But back in the day, I was buying that stuff all the time because that's just, was my bad habits.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, real quick question, kind of completely off topic. And it's funny that you just brought up Disney, but Sarah and I were just talking about this the other day. How much, because you have a family of 5, how much, your last trip, how much did it cost to go to Disney World with a family of 5? Just rough idea.
Now, because we would look at it still. And so now, depending on how you go, there's obviously a million ways you can go to Disney. Right. But if you stay on property at a kind of middle resort and you want to have food and all that, you're probably talking somewhere in the $5,000 range for a week. Yeah,
that's actually a little less than I thought it was going to be because we were kind of going back and forth about it because we didn't really know. I was just trying to figure out how does a family of 4 or 5, afford to even go on a trip like that. But that's actually a little less than I thought it would be.
Now we didn't go that way.
Yeah,
I was out to impress everybody, so we went top of the line resort, dining plan. So nowadays, if you were to do that, you're probably talking more in the $7,000 to $8,000 for a week.
See, and that's where I kind of thought it would be more is for 4 or 5, a family of 4 or 5. If you're gonna go, that's what I would think it would be. But so, anyways, back to poor financial habits. I think for me, one of my, and it's still something that I battle with today, is when I get bored, I spend money. And even today, that's still something that I do. I'm sure a lot of people out there can relate to that. So I really need to keep myself busy and focused, especially more so on the focus side when things get boring. Like in the wintertime, one of the beautiful things about running my own business is I work like crazy in the wintertime. But back when I was working a regular job in the wintertime here in Wisconsin, there's not a whole heck of a lot to do. So there's a lot of downtime. So I found that I would spend a lot more money during the winter months than I did during the summer months because my schedule wasn't nearly as busy. So I would go out and spend money. The other one where I really struggled, at least through my 20s, not so much in my 30s once I started kind of figuring some of this stuff out, but was FOMO, fear of missing out, especially when it came to like concerts. And I'm a Green Bay Packer football fan. And I went to a lot of Packer games that I had no business going to, and I put a lot of those tickets on credit cards. And it's just I mean, don't get me wrong, I saw some pretty incredible games, but at the same time, it's like I can't even imagine how much money I spent, not only on the tickets, but just, you know, the food while you're there, the hotel stays, and all of that stuff. But one of the reasons why I spent the money and went into debt for that is because I had a fear of missing out. My friends were going, and I didn't want to miss out on that opportunity. So I think the point of what we're trying to get to is that it's important to kind of take a moment and really sit down and figure out, okay, what is getting me into trouble? Maybe it's like all of us. Maybe, it's fear of missing out. Maybe it's saying no to friends, or maybe it's like Ryan in the sense where it's like electronics, a certain purchase that you like to buy. Maybe it's saying no to your kids or your spouse or your partner. Maybe you're unhappy in other areas of your life. Maybe like your job, or maybe even your relationship you're unhappy with, and you find that you make yourself feel better by retail therapy. I've actually worked with quite a few people one-on-one coaching that have some of those issues.
Yeah, when you say retail therapy, I mean, I think, and I don't know that I would have called it that, but definitely had that feeling of, oh, if I just had this, I'll be happy. And so then you go buy that and you are happy for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a day, maybe. It just depends. And then the cycle starts again, because then you get it home and then now you're bored. So now what's the next thing that's going to make you happy? So you're feeding kind of that monster of unhappiness by just buying stuff, thinking that next thing is what's going to do it for you. And just none of it ever does.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one of the best ways that, at least that I had earlier on in the game when I first started this, was creating something achievable that I could reach that I've never reached before. And the first thing for me was actually having some money in a bank account. And I never had money in a real, I mean, occasionally I'd get money. Like, for instance, you'd get like a tax return, or you'd get some money that would come to you, and that money would sit there temporarily until you figured out a way to spend it, right? But I wanted to create a habit of actually saving it and keeping it. So for me, establishing just a really small emergency fund was one of the smallest goals that I started with. And I believe that's the goal. And I say this to my Roots members all the time. I think that's one of the best goals that you can achieve, because that's the goal that's going to start to change your behaviors and turn your bad behaviors into good behaviors or better behaviors, and things that you're going to start working on to achieve that goal. And for most people, that small emergency fund of $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 is the most amount of money most people have ever had in a savings account. And I know it was for me when I first got started.
Yeah, we protected our emergency fund like crazy once we got it. And in order to get it, we did it fast, and we sold some stuff, and we built it really quickly, and then we protected it with our lives. We did not want to touch that thing whatsoever. And then my dog gets sick. So
I mean, but I think, Amber, that's a great point. And I think and so I would agree. I think an emergency fund for having a goal, I think it's critical that has got to be a goal. I mean, just if you're looking to get in the habit, could set you up for failure of getting out of debt. Because on our end, time and time again, we wouldn't have an emergency fund, and we'd be like, we're going to get out of debt. And then, like you, Amber, my dog would get sick, or something just is going to happen. And then you don't have that emergency fund. And the very first thing we'd be like is like, see, it don't work. My brother, Brad, he says it works. It doesn't work. He's so full of it. And because you don't have that emergency fund, once we had an emergency fund, it just got easier, because when that stuff happened, we had the money for it.
Yep. It is such a game changer. And I believe that's one of the things that most people miss. You know, when most people come to me and they say, Brad, I want to get out of debt, they've already started paying down on debt. And I ask them, how much money do you have in a savings account? And they'll say nothing. That's one of the biggest and most common mistakes that most people make, is that they just don't take time to first build up something that they can depend on if emergencies are going to happen. So for me, in changing bad behaviors, that's huge, because always relying on debt, like you said, Ryan, that is a bad habit. Like, if no matter what it is, whether it's a legit emergency or if it is truly just a bad habit and you overspending, going and relying on credit cards, that needs to stop. Like, you've got to stop that habit if you want to win. So for me, I think setting that small, achievable savings goal first and foremost is going to be critical to your overall success as you first get started with all of this that we're talking about. The other thing you got to get used to is understanding to learn how to live within your means. You can't spend more money than you make. And over the last couple of podcasts, and even throughout this podcast, as you listen to our show, you're going to hear us bounce back to this basic principle a lot. And you have to have a monthly cash flow plan and a monthly budget in order to make sure that you're not spending more than you make. And we're actually going to have our next episode number 5, is going to be all about starting your first budget. So if you haven't done a budget or it's been some time, make sure you check that episode out. But for me personally, and Amber and Ryan, you guys can share your input on budgeting. Some people like it, some people don't. But for me, even today, it has been such a game changer in helping us get to where we are and where we want to go moving forward, for sure.
I'll never stop the budget. It's just going to be a regular thing that we do, because it allows us to show our money where we want it to go. So it's been a game changer for us, definitely. And I just sat down with my daughter right before the holidays, and we sat down and we did a budget, because they slipped up and they had a little less than they were expecting. So they needed some money. So I said, okay, we'll do this, but we're sitting down and we're going to budget and we're going to show you how to do this thing. So it's helped me help my family too.
Yes.
So
I love that you were able to do that, because most people wouldn't have the abilities to help the other person. They would say, what would they say? They would say, oh, just go into debt. Everybody else does it. That's okay.
Right. I'm like, you didn't get a credit card, did you?
Right.
Don't get a credit card.
Yeah. And I think, living within your means, I think you hear that a lot, live within your means. I just want to park on that for a second, because I don't know what you both think. When I used to think living within my means was I had enough money to pay for everything. And if at the end of the month I had $5 in my checking account, but I paid all my bills, I was living within my means because I had enough money to do it. Meanwhile, I wasn't contributing to 401k. I didn't have life insurance. I wasn't saving for my kids' college. We were probably not going to the doctor when we should have. So I think living within your means is not about having enough money to pay for your lifestyle. It's about spending the money in the right way to support you, but also to take care of your family for the long term as well. It's not just about paying your bills.
Yeah. Yeah. When you create, that's a great point. And when you create your financial plan and your goals, it should include, like Ryan said, building that first savings account or being able to contribute to your 401k or your retirement. Eventually, you may not be able to do that right now today as you're listening to this show because you got some debt to pay off, but you don't want your goals or living below your means, like Ryan said, to be just getting by, right? That's not what we're shooting for. We're shooting for success, and that success means that you're actively being able to contribute to a savings account, pay cash for items that you want in your life. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back with the other tips here coming up. Hey, if you love planners, this is for you. Do you know why planners frustrate me, though? Because they only get it half right. Now, sure, they're really fancy at helping you manage your time, which is really important, obviously, but where they get it wrong is money. Now, I believe that there are two important resources that you need to have control of in your life to have success. One is time, and the other one is your money. And most planners don't include any financial planning, and that's frustrating. Things like keeping track of paydays and when bills are due, spending habits, yearly expenses, budgets, cash flow planning, debt elimination plans, goal planning. These things are a real pain in the butt because then you have to create your own. And who has time for all that? So instead, what happens for most of us? Nothing. We tend to ignore our finances even more, and things only get worse. Well, that can all end today. I am so excited to announce the release of my brand new totally awesome debt freedom planner here this year. Now, before you say, Brad, I already have a planner. Now, I'm going to here to tell you that this is not an ordinary day planner. This Debt Freedom Planner is a companion tool that works with your day planner to help you save more money, pay off debt, and melt away financial stress. This is the tool that we've all been waiting for. Also, if you're not a paper person, maybe you love spreadsheets or electronic versions, we've got a digital version available to you as well. So head on over to the realdebtfreedad.com, click on the Debt Freedom Planner in the menu at the top of the page, get all those details, and order your very own Debt Freedom Planner today. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Debt Free Dad podcast. Today we're sharing tips to help you radically improve your financial behavior so that you can grow your bank account, save more money, and pay off your debt and ultimately reach financial freedom. This next one is a game changer. You have got to follow this one most certainly, but here's the rule of thumb. If you can't pay cash, you can't afford it. But guys, how hard is it to follow that rule, especially as you first get started? Because that challenges not only habits, but all we talk about is this popular thinking out there about how people manage their money right now.
Well, I want things right away.
Yeah, right?
That was one of the hardest things I think to break, to not grab something right away because we just wanted it, if we didn't have the cash. So that's a tough one.
Yeah, there's a great SNL skit with Steve Martin.
Oh yeah,
and it cracks me up because it just fits with this. And it's this guy's selling a book, and he's like, I've got a book to sell you. It's called If You Don't Buy Stuff You Cannot Afford. And Steve Martin and his wife are at the kitchen table like, what? Like, what do you mean? I don't understand. It sounds confusing. But yeah, I mean, this is hard because I think, again, bad habits. I think this was a huge bad habit of ours. We'd go buy furniture. Hey, it's only $20 a month. You know, you don't think about that it's for 8 years or 5 years or 6 years. It's $20 a month. We can afford $20 a month. And it's like, again, death by 1,000 cuts. You just keep doing that, and suddenly you've got $400 in bills a month and all these little payments. So
yeah, I love that SNL skit. In fact, I'm gonna I made a note. I'm going to, if you're listening to this podcast, I'm gonna include it in the show notes so you can check it out. And we'll put the YouTube link in the show notes so you can see it. It is funny. I think it's hilarious, but it really hits right on this point about how weird this idea is if you can't pay cash, you can't afford it. Here's my suggestion to you. I know as you first get started, or maybe you've been toying with this idea of paying off debt. I know the idea of not using debt ever again can be overwhelming and almost seem crazy in a sense. So what I suggest to people is break up with it kind of like it's a bad relationship. And maybe you just need to take just a break from debt. So what I would suggest is rather than trying to wrap your head around never using credit cards again or never using a car or like a car loan again, right now what I would just challenge you to do is just start with 30 days. Like, I am going to commit to the next 30 days not to go any further into debt. And by practicing a lot of the things that we're sharing with you here on this podcast, over time, you will prove to yourself that you don't have to use debt because you got a good plan, you got a budget, you're working on those behaviors. And then take 30 days and turn it into 60 days, and then turn it into 90 days. But take it in little tiny bite-sized pieces. You don't have to kind of buy into this whole debt-free lifestyle right now. Maybe it's just, hey, taking a break for a short period of time. The other thing that I've seen some of our Roots members do, this is pretty fun. Amber, I know you've seen some of these posts, but we've actually had Roots members freeze, and this is just one way to do it, actually freeze their credit cards in water and put it in the freezer, and so they can't have easy access to them. Taking your credit cards off of your computers and even off of your phones, if your credit cards are stored in your phones. I mean, all of that stuff is just ways and little things that you can put into your life that, again, is just another step for you to say, wait, am I making the right decision here? And do I really need to buy whatever it is that I'm buying? Those things have really, really helped me. The other thing is you got to understand is that you really can't borrow your way out of debt. I can't tell you guys how many people I've coached that come to me and they say, Brad, I'm in a mess. I'm living paycheck to paycheck. I'm risking getting behind. Some of them are already behind. And it's amazing to me how many of them feel that the answer to that is going into more debt or reorganizing their debt or taking out another, a consolidation loan. Listen, you can't borrow your way out of your mess. You've got to change your habits, and that's the only way it's going to work.
Yeah, I have a story about that, Brad. My husband, before we got married, he had some collection agencies call in, and he said, I think I need to claim bankruptcy. I said, okay, this is, it'll lower our payments. Like, this is a good thing. And we won't go back into debt. So he did that. And a few years later, we're going back into debt. And now we're getting credit cards again. And about 4 years after that, I decided I needed money to borrow for a car. And I'm going to roll in all our credit card debt into that because it's going to be one easy payment. And we're not going to touch the credit cards again. Well, we touched the credit cards again and we racked it up even more. So it feels like a fix at the moment, but it didn't change our behavior or our habits. So that is where, when we finally decided to change, we did not do any consolidation and we just paid it off ourselves. And the pain of having to go through like adding up all the debt and paying that off was way more of a lesson and a learning that we aren't going to go back, and we haven't in over 2 years. So yeah.
And the big reason why that has happened, though, and your story is a common story I hear on a regular basis, the whole bankruptcy. The bankruptcy is like a, wash your hands. It's, it's a fresh start, and hardly it is for any people that go through it. I haven't heard, I hear too many horror stories about it of people just like you and what your situation was. And I see it all the time.
Yeah. And I think it goes, so Amber's story, totally relate to. We've done, we did a number of consolidations. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, it'll work for us, it's probably not. But we were convinced it was going to work. And same story. We acquired more debt. You pay some off, you acquire more debt, you consolidate, you acquire more debt. And the big eye opener for us at the end of it is just, you're treating the symptom. You're not treating the actual problem. The problem is you and your habits of spending money. And if you don't fix that, you can consolidate as much as you want. You're going to keep going further and further and digging the hole, just like I did. I mean, we dug a very large hole by just continuing to think that next thing was going to fix it.
Yeah, we did it too. This was back in my first marriage, first house I bought. We ended up, the housing market was going up, and we didn't do a regular traditional consolidation loan, but what we did is a consolidation loan within our home equity line of credit, which is another way that you can do, which is a terrible way to do it, by the way. And I ended up reorganizing some debt to lower our payments, but same thing as the other two, and Amber and Ryan, what they've said is that it didn't fix anything. It ultimately just put us further in the hole because we didn't change those behaviors. So you've got to come to terms with that there is no way that you're ever going to borrow away out of your situation. You've got to come to terms with that. It's you, and you've got to change those habits. Otherwise, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse as the days go on. One of the other big things that's really kind of helped out me is cutting out the distractions that caused me to get into trouble. And I know, some of these can be taken a little bit lighthearted, but if you look at statistics, I mean, it shows that, people who watch more TV or spend more time on social media or are always in front of these advertisements that are out there, they will spend more money. So start thinking about what are some of the distractions that are causing me to spend money that I don't have. Another one right now is with social media. I have so many people that have come to me and say one of the big things for me was leaving these buying groups on social media, like Facebook buying groups. They're in these groups or rummage sale groups, and they would find that they were just spending money on this stuff because it's constantly in their face. So make sure you're checking some of these things and some of these distractions. Do you guys have what were some of the distractions or some of the things that you think cause you issues, or were there any that you guys could pinpoint?
Social media for me, that's a big one for me. I wouldn't say I gave it all the way up, but just cut back on I just really cut back on viewing it so much, and probably eliminated I guess the quote unquote friends that you have. I don't, 90% of them I haven't seen in 20, 30 years, so, and I really don't care all the things they're buying and going into debt for. So that was a big one for me. Honestly, if I think through it, like, that's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah. What about relationships? Amber, you have any issues with any relationships? I know, like, for me, I had some relationships that really kind of struggled once I, started cutting out some of them in my life, and not cutting them out entirely, but just I had to step away because those relationships were causing me to spend money that I didn't have anymore. And, I had to make those changes. So, one of the notes that I have in here for this point is just keep your relationships in check, because those relationships could be causing you the distractions and the trouble when it comes to your money. There's no question.
Well, we had a couple instances, but nothing too bad with like our relationships or what we were doing. We're more homebodies or do things together. So for us, we just had to find ways to spend time together without going out to spend money. But I had to unsubscribe to emails, like so many emails, because it's so easy to click on those store sales and everything that's going on. And like you said, the buy and sell groups, oh my gosh, I can get lost in those. And it's nothing. It's stuff that I don't even probably need.
Yeah, right. Now, admittedly, Amber, you are a direct sales consultant, so you sell consumer goods. So even you as a person who understands how this stuff works even can fall victim to some of that stuff, right?
Heck yeah. I've been watching this coffee girl and I want to buy all her coffee.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing how, as a salesperson, like, you can, how it works, but at the same time, you can fall victim to the same things that are being sold to you. So the next one, which is a big one, and I think this is going to be a little great conversation here with the two of you, because the two of you have had different experiences reaching financial freedom. We're going to talk about accountability. I think having an accountability partner or a system in place, I think for most people, not everybody, but I think there's only a small percentage of people that can actually do something like this on their own, and they have kind of the ability to hold themselves accountable. I think most people need that accountability. I know in my life, I needed accountability, especially even like, for instance, not even when it's related to finances, but like working out. Like, I need to know that my instructor isn't expecting me to show up to that gym, and there's other people that are going to be there expecting me to be there too. That thought gets me to get up and go there and make sure I show up. And it's the same thing, I think, when it comes to your finances. I think it took me way too long to get out of debt. And I think one of the number one reasons why it did is because I didn't have accountability. So I constantly was always falling victim to myself because I was the only one holding myself accountable. Now, Ryan and Amber, like I said, you guys have had two different paths. Ryan, you did it on your own, and Amber, you did it through joining Roots and following the system that now we teach. So I'm interested to see the two of you and how you feel about it. Amber, you had accountability. Ryan, I don't know, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we grew accountable to each other, to myself and my wife. But as far as I would say that was something we lacked, and not because we didn't want accountability, but debt and money is like a taboo subject in this world we live in. You don't say stuff to people about your debt or your money, even though we're all almost 8 out of 10 of us are all living paycheck to paycheck, and we're all feeling the same thing. We don't talk about it.
Right.
So I think that's why this podcast and these and your Facebook group and your program, I think that's why this stuff is so important, is because this needs to be a normal part of conversation. It needs to be okay to say, I don't know what I'm doing with my money, and to not be embarrassed. And, but yeah, from accountability standpoint, I think accountability would have helped us a lot more in our journey. It's just, we were too embarrassed to reach out and ask for it. So it took us a lot longer. I mean, it took us total of 8 years. Probably half of that was spent, half kind of trying to get out of debt, like we're going to do it. And then
Yep.
you're like, ooh, bright and shiny thing at Best Buy. I'm going to buy that. You know, so, you know, but you're like, oh, I didn't buy the real expensive one, so we're doing good.
Yep.
You know, but it wasn't until, you know, we really got on the system and started holding each other accountable and that it really, really took off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think accountability is super important. And I think that's what helped us do it in 20 months instead of longer. You know, just having the live meetups, we met once a week on a video chat, and the Facebook group, and just seeing that we weren't alone. There were other people that were going through the same things. So there was really no reason to be ashamed of what we were going through and trying to fix. So the accountability made a huge difference. I've done diets without accountability, and I've done diets with accountability. And I'll tell you, there's a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I would get, and I don't get nearly as many messages from Amber anymore, but I still get them. Actually, she just sent me one not too long ago. But on a regular basis through his 20 months, Amber would consistently message me and tell me how they're doing. This is what we're doing. This is how it's working. Like this is what we screwed up, or whatever it might be. But I think it's critically important that you find that accountability person. It could be a person. It could be this podcast. It could be our Facebook group. If you search in Facebook, search Life Without Payments, that's our free Facebook group. You can jump in there and kind of get an idea of what this accountability looks like. And ultimately, this is why Roots exists. This is why our program exists, Roots of Personal Finance. This is why I created it, because I knew that there had to be an easier way to get out of debt, and it had to be way easier than the way I took. The way I took, again, I think it took me twice as long as it should have. I didn't pay off. I paid off a little bit more debt than Amber, and I did it in about 4 or 5 years. Amber did it in 20 months, and I think that's the big difference between having accountability and not having accountability. And again, we're not here to kind of push the stuff that we're doing, but the stuff we're doing works, but you got to find that in your life. Maybe it's not Brad, maybe it's not Ryan, maybe it's not Amber, maybe it's something else, but you've got to find that in your life. Who's going to hold you accountable? If your spouse or partner can't hold you accountable, or you guys can't hold each other accountable, you guys have to find that third party person that's going to help you, or hold your feet to the fire on some of the stuff that you want to work towards. All right. So those are our tips today to help you hopefully start changing some of those financial behaviors. We mentioned this in episode number 1, but just remember that this is a marathon. It is not a sprint. So be patient with yourself. Give yourself some grace. You're going to screw up. You're going to mess up. Like Ryan and I and Amber have all said throughout this, we still, even though decided to start working on this, we still made mistakes. The point is that you just can't give up. So we're going to move on. We're going to do a new segment earlier on in our podcast life here, and we're going to do some celebrations of the show.
Hey, what's this I see? I thought this was a party! Let's dance!
That's right. So when you hear Kevin Bacon, it's time to do some celebrations. What do you guys think of that new soundbite? I love that one.
It's my favorite movie, so I love it.
That's a great movie. I think I remember growing up, Mom we rented that. I think she wore out the tape from renting it. She watched it so many times.
Have you guys seen the new one, the new Footloose?
Yes, and I think they did a great job.
I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was good. I mean, it's been a while. It's been several years since that came out, but I thought it was good. I actually like the soundtrack too. The soundtrack's really good. So let's do some celebrations. We got 3 fantastic celebrations here today. All 3 of these come from Roots Personal Finance, some of our Roots Personal Finance members that have been working so hard on a lot of the stuff that we're sharing in this podcast. The first one is Erin Porter. Erin and her family joined Roots back in July of 2019. So at the time that this podcast will air, we're talking about 6 months. Check this out. They have paid off $13,127 already. She says savings is hard to calculate because we always have $1,000 emergency fund, and sometimes it gets used and we've got to refill that. But she says, I would definitely agree. It's all about having a different mindset. And we've been talking about that a lot on this podcast. But I'm excited more than anything. Check this out, that we have our kids on board. We have started an envelope system with them, and I have them write down their own chore chart each week to help them get in the habit of this budgeting mindset. And I work on my budget as they work on their chores. How cool is that? That's a wonderful celebration. Great job, Aaron Porter. Congratulations to you. Our next celebration is Cassandra Lawrence. She says, since joining in October of 2019, mind you, again, about 3 months ago, 4 months ago, we have paid off already $6,799.64 and have saved $2,974.31, which savings includes my $1,000 emergency fund that I built, check this out, in less than 30 days. So in this podcast, we talked about how important it is having maybe that small savings goal when you first start. Cassandra did it in less than 30 days, building that $1,000 emergency fund. Again, practicing a lot of the same tips that we're sharing with you here today. But what does that add up to? I'm terrible at math, believe it or not. I'm a financial coach. What is that? That's almost a $10,000 swing in 3 months. That is unbelievable. Congratulations to you, Cassandra. Great job. And then last but not least, Chantel Perrone. They've been members since of Roots Personal Finance since March of 2017. Can you believe that, Amber? Already what
crazy.
happened to the time? Almost 3 years they've been in Roots Personal Finance
And they're
now.
killing it.
They are absolutely killing it. So check this out. She says, going on almost 3 years, we have paid off $120,000 and saved well over $10,000. It's hard to determine the savings, but have refunded our emergency fund at least 3 or 4 times and has saved on countless purchases and by just not buying things that we don't need. She says, this program has changed our mindset and our communication as a couple. And she says, I don't know where I would be without Roots Personal Finance. So good for you, Chantel. I love your guys' progress. All 3 of you, congratulations. Great job. What do you guys think of those celebrations? Those things that's amazing.
Those were fantastic. And it just goes to show you when you put your mind to something, you can do it.
Yep. And I think the accountability side again, too. I think the accountability is I think that's just amazing.
Hey, that sound means it's time for the question of the show. Do you have a question about your finances? If so, send me an email at brad@therealdebtfreedad.com and we will try our best to get your question on an upcoming episode of the Debt Free Dad podcast. So, Amber and Ryan, here is today's question. This is going to be, we might get hate mail on this one.
I'm getting ready.
Right? Get ready. Get those
ready.
boxing gloves out, right? Here we go. I need to get another vehicle. My commute to work is long, and I easily put on 400 to 500 miles per week, so I need something reliable. I'm looking at buying a new car, but wasn't sure if that was my best option. Ideally, I would love to not add on any more debt, but I don't really see how that's possible. What would you do? Play the Jeopardy music.
Mm-hmm.
What do you guys think?
I mean, there's a lot of reliable cars out there that are already, previously used. Like you can definitely get something used. Just find somebody that you trust to look it over. I've brought them over to, a dad's friend because he was a mechanic and I trusted his opinion and I've purchased used vehicles that way. But maybe even carpooling for now until you can save enough. If you can.
All good ideas. Believe it or not, we could actually probably have a whole entire podcast on this topic alone.
Oh, definitely.
And we probably will one day soon.
I mean, as you read the question, you're saying, I'm looking at buying a new car. Wasn't sure if that's the right thing. And then you're about, you need something reliable. You drive far to work. Bottom line, I mean, I've been in your situation. I had a job. I drove thousands of miles. And you can make an excuse to buy anything you want. And you can make up a reason to buy anything you want. So if you're trying to convince yourself that you need to buy a new car, then I can't really convince you otherwise if you're just going to convince yourself to do that. I will definitely say with Amber, I have 2 kids. We bought a Kia Forte for my son for $6,000 4 years ago now. We've not had one problem with it. So this idea of reliable, my opinion, I think a lot of this stuff comes to like what your parent, I just remember, when we grew up, when we were younger and our parents, cars didn't last. They don't last like they do today. It was, if you could get a car to 100,000 miles back in the day, it was considered a high mileage car. Nowadays, the Kia Forte we bought him's got 150,000 miles. I think we've put a battery in it in the 4 years we've owned it. So when you say reliable, my idea of reliable now, I drove a Grand Prix that was $3,000 for almost 3 years and didn't put any money into it. It was perfectly reliable. So you can buy anything, and as long as it gets checked out, like Amber said,
Yep. Totally agree. I'm paying cash. That's what I'm recommending. And here's the thing. So a lot of people will look at a new car as the best option because it's reliable. But what you don't understand in the invisible cost is in the depreciation of that new car. And that's where you really can get killed on these new vehicles. So I think right now the average depreciation, and this is kind of on the lower level in the first 4 years that you own it, is anywhere between 55 to 65%, depending on the make and model of that vehicle. I mean, that's a ridiculous amount of depreciation in the first 4 years. So total it up. I mean, just do the quick math, and you're going to find that on a monthly basis, you're wasting hundreds of dollars a month on that brand new car just in depreciation on a monthly basis. And I would agree with Amber and Ryan. I think there is this whole idea that, used cars aren't reliable. And I got to tell you, I've been buying used cars now for almost 10 years. And I've had nothing but fantastic luck. And I had to be smart about it, get it checked out, find a reputable mechanic that can look it over for you. In fact, Amber's husband is a mechanic and works on vehicles. I was actually looking at used vehicles about a month ago, I think. Well, a couple weeks ago, a month ago. And I was messaging Paul about, hey, what are some things that I should look at? And he was giving me some pointers and things. So it's important that you find some people that you can trust to have look over this vehicle. In regards to, because I'll hear this from time to time on my commute. Oh, my commute is so long, so I have to buy a new vehicle. First of all, miles are going to crush the value of that car, more so than the time itself. So if you're driving high mileage already, you're going to lose even more on that depreciation than, say, the average driver who maybe puts on only about 12,000 miles a year. All right. I used to drive almost the same mileage, about 500. It's actually probably more than 500 miles. It was 100 miles from my door back to my door going to work. And that was on a good day. If the traffic was good and I have to take a detour or pick up my kids or go to soccer practice. And when I was getting out of debt, I bought myself a 1996 Toyota Corolla for $3,000. And we just shared this statistic in Roots when we were doing Roots Trivia. I drove that car almost 5 times around the entire world. And I didn't put that much money into it. Now, did it look good? Was it the sexiest car on the road? I think it was, but not many other people probably thought it was. But to me, like I'd mentioned in another podcast, that was like my statement car. Like that was like, hey, I decided I'm not getting out of debt. We talked about that today. If you don't have cash, or if you have to go into debt, you can't afford it. And I didn't want to go into debt. Now, if you do go into debt, my other recommendation is make sure it's less than 2 years. Okay, don't be going in and getting these 48, 60-month, 72-month car loans. You don't need to do that to yourself. If you don't have $6,000 to buy a used car right now, or maybe $5,000 or $4,000 or whatever it is, if you have to, you can take out a small loan, but make sure it's just for a very short period, and then get crazy serious about paying it off as fast as you possibly can. All right. I think cars are one of the biggest reasons why most people will never be able to build wealth, be able to save a considerable amount of money, and it will always keep them in the hole. So I think you've got to get out of this mindset that you're always going to have a car payment and that you have to buy new cars. All right, guys, thanks for hanging out with us today. We love your feedback, and it also helps us grow our podcast. So please leave us an honest review in Apple Podcasts. We read every single one of those. As you know, the Debt Free Dad podcast is here to help you live a happier and stress-free financial life. If you know someone who could benefit from our show, hey, we would love for you to share our show with them. That would be awesome. We appreciate you, and we'll see you on our upcoming episode. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Debt Free Dad podcast. For more free resources to kick debt and financial stress, head over to therealdebtfreedad.com.